Welcome, everyone. Welcome, those of you who have been to the Inside Room before. We have them about every month and a half, different guests, and welcome to those where it's your first time. So I'm going to turn it right over to Michelle now because I'm very anxious. We have an hour, and I'm very anxious to hear what you have to say.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Terry. Well, before we start, as always, I want to take everyone through a couple of processes that will really help you to ground into where you are right now, and will be very regulating for your nervous systems. Because wherever your nervous system is, has a incredible effect on your emotions and then your thoughts. And I really want everyone to be able to get the most out of our time together today. So having some regulation happen in your nervous systems right now can only be helpful. So I will invite you to close your eyes if you're somewhere where that's safe to do, not if you're driving, of course. And just go ahead and give your body weight up and over to whatever it is you're resting on right now, whatever it is you're sitting on. If you happen to be walking while you're listening to this, just notice the contact that your feet are having with the floor or the ground. And really settle into the stability of the ground, the floor, whatever it is you're sitting on. Having a sense of stability, even if we don't have it in our own bodies or our own minds or what's happening emotionally, is a gorgeous way to begin to experience regulation in your nervous system. So notice the stability of what you're standing on, walking on, or sitting on. And really give your body weight, whatever those words mean to you right now, up and over to the ground, to the floor, or to what you're sitting on. As best you can, begin to let your bellies relax, letting your jaw relax, letting your tongue rest behind your lower teeth. And see if you can let the area behind your eyes soften, whatever those words might mean to you today. Just a softening. And those of you that know me well won't be surprised when I ask you to simply notice that you're safe right now. Now, the mind might have some kind of commentary on that. But as I always say, you are not your thoughts. And you have anywhere between 20 to 70,000 thoughts a day. So noticing that you're safe while you tune in to the stability of whatever it is you're standing on, walking on, or sitting on. And feel yourself settling in to the present moment. The more you can signal safety into your body and your nervous system, the more present you become. And I will ask you also to tune into the stillness, silence, and space right now. There could be a constant noise where you are, but there is always more stillness, silence, and space, because the stillness, silence, and space are the background for all sound. Flow isn't something you enter. It's something you allow when you stop abandoning yourself. So very gently and slowly, you can go ahead and begin to open your eyes. Let me say that again. Flow isn't something you all of a sudden enter. It's something that you experience and allow when you stop abandoning yourself.
Hmm.
That's provocative.
I have a question right away.
Please. Yeah, I saw
May
you
I
pop
ask
on.
it?
Yes, Terry.
What do you mean by stop abandoning? What do you mean by
Yeah.
abandoning yourself?
Yes, yes, yes. So, when I was putting together the content for today, Terry asked me what I wanted to talk about and then some talking points on what I wanted to talk about. And I know for so much of my younger life, I was into people pleasing and I didn't have good boundaries. And the moment we go into that mode of trying to force things or please the people in our world, we really abandon ourselves in a really unhelpful way. And we give our power away when that's happening. So, this idea of flow, which is such a gorgeous way to look at it. I mean, flow is the same thing as the zone, it's also the same thing as being present in this moment of now. So, there's so much I could say about all of this. And it's really about moving into a place of more nervous system regulation. I know it doesn't sound that sexy, nervous system regulation, but it is the foundational piece. Because here's the thing, whether you want to make more money, whether you want more love in your life, more joy, more laughter, more fun, the bottom line is if that does not feel safe, most likely it's not going to happen because some form of self-sabotage is going to happen. So I want to be very clear about something. Flow is always here. It never goes anywhere. It's always here. So your having a sense of well-being is so incredibly important because when you're having a sense of well-being, your charisma is there, your magnetism, your beautiful personality, whatever it is. And when you are relaxed enough to be in that playful place, it really affects your outer circumstances and what you're able to manifest for yourself in your life. Any questions about that, Tara? Is that bringing up any insights?
Well, I think there are mostly actors here today. So, um, they want more, they want things to come easier for them. I mean,
Of
is there
course.
something that they're supposed to do every day, or how do they use this?
Yes. And it doesn't sound that fun, so to speak, or as I like to say, sexy, but it's about self regulating. Those tools I took everybody through at the very beginning of this are invaluable. Invaluable. Another thing I would also suggest is not suppressing your emotions. I did a session earlier with a longtime actress client of mine, actually, who lives in LA earlier today. And we got to the bottom of something that's been a bit of an issue for a while. And that was the fact that she's got a lot of suppressed anger happening over the state of the world and a lot of other things. So, my recommendation to her was to really let herself get in touch with that. Because when you're suppressing emotions, you are sitting on your energy. And as I like to say, especially with anger and depression, a lot of times, I should say depression, a lot of times depression is anger without enthusiasm or anger without expression. But we are taught in our cultures and in our society that that's not okay to be angry. So it gets suppressed. She did what I suggested, and I got this cute email from her like about 10 minutes later. Oh my God, Michelle, I feel so much energy right now. She's been feeling completely depleted of energy, so tired all of the time. So it's about having the ability to really be honest with yourselves in terms of what you're feeling. That's another way to really move past the non-resourceful places that we can go, like numbness and that kind of thing. It's huge because when we're not really being honest with ourselves, that's when we really move into people pleasing and having bad boundaries. So it's about really, it sounds kind of simplistic in a way, but not easy. It's about really taking care of yourself first thing in the morning as you're waking up. If you want to have a better sense of well-being so that you're therefore experiencing more flow and more money coming in and all of that, tending to your nervous system first thing is extremely important. And it's as simple as doing the tools I did at the very beginning. It'll start to put you in this place and this vibration of flow. And again, the flow is always there. The thing that makes us think it's not is something that, Terry, you learned in our 3-day workshop 20 years ago or whatever it was. When you're not in that place of being where you feel safe being present, you move on to the front line. And that's the thoughts, memories, emotions, associations, perceptions, and body sensations. That's what really moves us into this place of feeling crappy, anxiety, whatever it may be. And the moment you signal safety into your system somehow, you begin to move off of the front line. And you begin to move into a place also where you notice that it seems like time becomes expanded in some way. Because one of the other incredible things about flow is that when you're in that space, the zone is another great way to name it, you lose all track of time. Because as a lot of scientists are saying, and neuroscientists and all of that, time is very much an illusion in a lot of ways. Now it's got really useful aspects to it. We could all meet here today or watch the replay or whatever it may be. But time really becomes expanded in this incredible way when we are immersed in something. Now, another thing I would say that's really, really important is having true compassion for yourself when you notice, oh, holy shit, I'm back on the front line again. Something's happening. That's the thing that just takes us out of it. And another thing I would say that really robs us from the sense of flow and that kind of thing, and this is really huge what I'm about to speak about, is the stories that the mind makes up when we're experiencing an uncomfortable body sensation. Let's say I was speaking to another client about this yesterday. I'm sure some of you will relate to this. This particular client, when she's having an uncomfortable body sensation, I mean, her mind just goes to catastrophic imaginings, in terms of what's wrong with me. Sometimes it's like she thinks she has cancer, this, that, or the other thing, right? And I made her laugh because I said to her, well, 3 nights ago, when I was going to sleep, this part of my finger right here hurt. And I got into bed and I was like, oh my God, I'm going to wake up at 3 o'clock in the morning and my finger's going to be throbbing. And then I had the thought, oh shit, what if it's throbbing when I'm being interviewed by Terry on Thursday? And then I'm going to see a really dear friend in Houston, Texas in about a week and a half or so. I'm like, oh my God, if it happens on the plane. It's the mind being a ding dong. And a lot of times, depending on the degree of the catastrophic thinking that comes up for us as people, a lot of it goes back to our childhood trauma, whether it was big T traumas that we went through or small T traumas, and a lot of times the more catastrophic the imaginings are, it speaks to the particular trauma that we went through as a child. because we're literally trying to organize the chaos. But see, we're not in the chaos anymore until we start to give over to the thoughts. And as soon as we begin to believe those thoughts, well, now we work ourselves up into a frenzy. But going back to what I said just a couple minutes ago, the ability for you to have compassion for yourself is everything. It was interesting. I was teaching a workshop in December and a new tool came through, which some of you might really like. Some of my clients are on right now, so they know the tool already. And it's a really good one. So when the mind starts to come up with some ridiculous judgment about ourselves or someone else or catastrophic thinking, what you can literally say to the thought or thoughts is, liar, liar, pants on fire. Now, that is such a genius tool in so many ways. First off, we're bringing a silly sense of humor to the absolute shenanigans of the thoughts. Doing it in a sing-songy way like that means that it's even more of a pattern interrupt because you're physicalizing it, you're using the silly song, whatever it may be.
Well, I know you said that you had a lot planned for the short time we have. So I
Yes.
think rather than me asking you questions, I'd like to just let you lay it all out.
Continue. Okay, great. I took a
Yeah.
bunch of notes this morning, so I'm going to look over here for a moment because I have so much I wanted to cover. Yeah, this is an interesting one. I believe this is true for people that are in the arts and people that are not in the arts. Okay. Creativity is so incredibly important in our lives. And I'll speak to the actors for a moment. You know, when it's been a dry spell and there hasn't been as much to create, so to speak, it usually leads to depression and grief. And this is true, though, also of people who are not actors. Creativity is what makes our hearts sing, it's what makes us have the ability to really begin to tap into the incredible wisdom that lives in our hearts. Okay, there's a lot of information that's coming through in the last so many years about the importance of the resonance and coherence of the heart. Okay, the mind is needed and it's useful, but the mind is a horrendous master. Horrendous. It's a great servant. And creativity opens us up to be able to really begin to connect with the wisdom of the heart. And your ability to experience more flow, less people pleasing, and having healthy boundaries for yourself really lies in beginning to really listen to what your intuition and your knowing has to share with you. It's not the mind. The mind is literally programmed from a place of survival to keep going over what happened in the past. I like to say sometimes that the mind is all about just lamenting what happened in the past. And then it likes to regurgitate that onto the present moment and then project it out into the future. And again, I'm not criticizing the aspect of the mind slash ego. I just like to be very clear about what it's literally doing. And it's really not helpful to try to figure out a problem, so to speak, with the mind. It's much better to do some nervous system regulation practices that can be letting your belly relax, noticing the stability of what you're sitting on and that kind of thing, so that you can then discover a solution to the problem, to whatever it might be. Because if the mind is constantly referencing the past, you're not most likely going to find the solution from the mind. And the moment you start to tune into this inner wisdom, also what begins to happen is you begin to, kind of a fun way to say it, I don't think I've ever said it this way before, you begin to literally dance with your knowing and your intuition, because that's very much tapped into great possibility. Great possibility. And whatever it may be, I'll speak again to the actors and the actresses. You know, when you're going to be working on a role, working on an audition, whatever it may be, it is so incredibly important to really tap into your playfulness, your own inspiration as it lends to whatever it might be. I remember, goodness gracious, this was a long time ago because my daughter was like 19 and she's 39 now. She and I an audition for something. It was a film, an independent film. And I knew that the chances of me getting the role probably weren't going to be that high because I've always looked a lot younger than I am. I'm 61 now. And I knew that the character in the movie had like older teenage kids. Anyways, we both got auditions, and I just loved acting so much when I did it because it was, for me, all about the humanity of the person. Like, no matter what the character was, it was like I wanted their truth to be known. And it was a very complicated character. She was an alcoholic and she was really acting out. And so when I was preparing myself for the audition, I didn't shower for a week because the first scene they had me doing, she was at a rehab situation because she had fallen down and hit her jaw hard when she was drunk the night before and she hadn't really been bathing or whatever. So I went dressed the part, no makeup, of course, my hair's disheveled and all of that. And I even did something with my mouth like this. And I'll never forget it because when I was done auditioning, the man who was the director, he just stopped and he just said, "I really don't even know what to say to you." He said, "That was incredible." He said, "I have to give you a call back." And he knew I was way too young looking for it. And I went to the callback. The callback went well. They ended up casting my daughter and they had to go with an actress that looked a lot older. And I'll never forget that because I did exactly what I felt was right for that role. I put my vanity aside and I just did it in such a way that I honestly didn't even care when I went to the audition on a lot of levels how it was going to go. And it's such an incredible example of me going into an acting situation when I was younger, not trying to people please. I could think of several other situations. There was a huge Coke commercial that I went in for, and the casting director was a bit of an asshole. I won't name names. And she made fun of what I was doing while I did it. I got a call back. And boy, was she different with me when I got back to the callback. So I just want to suggest to not just the actors and the actresses, but them, of course, as well, it's like really living your life from a place and doing things that just really light you up. And when you start to live your life in that way, the people pleasing starts to go out the door. And the other interesting thing about boundaries is that we are responsible for setting the boundaries that are good for us and best for us. And another thing I wanted to mention today is that if you've had a tricky time with boundaries, I certainly did for a lot of my life. I'm still working on it, to be honest with you. It means that we were brought up by people who crossed our boundaries a lot, and most likely came from a lot of shenanigans and trauma in their own lives. Two of the areas of my expertise are the mother wound, father wound, and inherited family trauma. And a lot of times we need to understand. I was talking to another client about this, I think it was yesterday, that the way we perceive the world and the way we feel that people, even situations, so to speak, are perceiving us is through the lens that our parents perceived us. And if you had, and they could have been perfectly nice people as parents, but you in some way, shape, or form felt like you couldn't trust them for various reasons, it makes trusting the outside world very difficult and dicey. And the saddest thing about that is that it then makes us have a difficult time trusting ourselves. And it's all coming from the safety, because the mind and the ego, we could say, and I will say, is constantly being fueled by what feels safe, what feels like I will survive. And another thing I wanted to mention today is that what's fascinating is that you will begin to notice that having healthy boundaries will become a lot easier when you realize this. The way people treat you, what they say to you, their treatment of you, their behavior, is always coming from a place in them so that they feel safe and they feel like they will survive better. Now, if that's true, and it is true, when you really, really absorb that, boundaries become a lot easier, a lot easier. And one of the beautiful things about boundaries is boundaries are just so gorgeous when it comes to self-respect. And if you weren't respected a lot around your boundaries or other types of things when you were younger, it can make it feel scary and hard to set those boundaries. Now, the other really fascinating thing in terms of everything I'm speaking about right now, and Terry could actually speak to this as well as a casting director. When you go into a situation, this could be a dating situation, this could be a job, an acting job, or whatever it is, and you are unconsciously in that people pleasing place, it is the biggest turnoff. It just feels icky. And it literally sends a vibration in the room or on the Zoom, because so much is done on Zoom these days, of you're not trustworthy. It's just wild. Terry, I would love for you to speak to this.
We can absolutely feel it. And it's interesting because my next blog for casting networks is about how do you gain trust as an actor in the industry? Because we have to trust you. We have to.
Yes.
So I love what you're saying about it feels like good auditions, to get good auditions, like to really enjoy, trust yourself. But I hear so many times from people who are taking workshops from me, and they're good and they're doing what, they're doing their training, but I'm going to speak to industry people now. They don't get feedback. Like I'm not sure where boundaries fit in to how does an actor deal with no feedback, feeling frustrated that they're not getting callbacks, they're not getting bookings, and then boundaries. We all, even casting directors, like, I get texts on weekends from my clients, and we ask for things from actors. Um, on weekends. And like I just had something over the holiday where I had to reach out to some actors, these were voiceover actors, and because at the last minute over the holiday, there was a switch, and I thought of some good people. So it was, right before Christmas Eve, where can you record this? And truthfully, the agents that I contacted and the actors that I contacted directly, I think they could feel that I was being authentic and I wasn't pushing boundaries, but I really needed it. This is the only thing I can think of. And they, like one of them said, I'm at a pre-Christmas dinner. Can I get it back to you tonight? And I said, of course, get it back whenever, as long as I have it. Like we understood each other, but if an actor said, okay, it's Christmas holiday, I'm done, no more, no more from those casting directors, like I don't quite like how do actors deal with boundaries or anyone in any business, because it's happening in every business.
Yeah, for
And
sure.
how do you deal with, I go through it myself as a casting director. You set something up and in acting, turn in your auditions and then you don't get the results that you want.
Mm-hmm. Okay, so the first thing I want to say, Terry, is that, when I say boundaries, I'm also saying that within certain industries, the boundaries are blurred when it comes to having to get things back quickly for you,
Every industry now,
Yeah,
every,
I'm sure that's true.
yeah.
So it's about having the ability to have the flexibility within yourself to know that that is the way that it is. So that when the, call comes out and you have to have something, the turnaround is 8 hours or whatever it is, it's about understanding that that's just the way it is now.
Mhm.
So that's very important, because to become rigid around that when everything has changed so much is actually a fascinating self-sabotage.
Mhm.
So if the goal is to book work, right, and the rules have changed per se, then
They
we have to go, yeah, we have to go with the flow, to
Mhm.
be in the flow. And you could get pissed and you could get, upset about it, and that's okay. It doesn't mean that you're going to like it, but having a way to not get stuck in your pissed offness or your anger or whatever it is, it's just an emotion, and all emotions really are is energy. So
Mhm.
boundaries are something that is, very personal in terms of, what that means for an individual. And I love what you're bringing up because it has changed so much.
Yeah, so when you talk about boundaries, like I'm not sure what you're saying.
Okay, so let me give a great example. So I feel that a very healthy boundary
Thank
for
you.
a human being to have,
Mhm.
especially in this day and age, is to not go on your phone until 9 or 10 o'clock in the morning.
Mhm.
Okay, one of the worst things that's corroding people's sense of well being right now is social media. With everything that's going on in the world, it's very dysregulating for people. So I feel having a healthy boundary is, and again, whatever floats your boat, right? We're all different. For some people, it's spending 15 minutes in prayer in the morning or longer, whatever time you have. For somebody else, it's meditating. For somebody else, it's doing some yoga, taking a walk, whatever it may be.
Mhm.
I feel that one of the things that could really cause a shift for people right now around their sense of well being and boundaries is not getting caught up in the dopamine hit aspect of social media and all of those things, because that revs up somebody's nervous system quicker than anything else. And this whole idea of manifestation also is that we manifest at the speed of safety. So, again, It's about really being able to be in a place where you feel safe to make more money, have more bookings. Or maybe for somebody that's listening to this, I happen to know a client that's listening to this that this will be helpful for, and I'm sure someone else too. Really regulating your nervous system to know that it's safe to be in a healthy relationship with somebody who appreciates you and really respects you at the same time. So boundaries is a very, very personal thing. And again, sometimes it's appropriate to have boundaries with certain friends and certain family members.
Mhm.
Not feeling like the moment this person is in crisis, because they're in crisis every other day, that you have to be the one that's there to talk to them for 2 hours or whatever it is. Because that's not helpful if it's somehow affecting you in a way where you're not getting done what you need to get done or focusing on yourself or whatever it may be.
Wonderful. Thank you. I'd love to, Jamie, questions so this could become more specific. I think you laid out a great foundation, Michelle. So
Great.
let's see if there's specifics, and I'm sure more will unfold.
Yes, I love questions, as you know.
Mhm. Me too.
Great. I know earlier Ollie Williamson had a question. Ollie, do you want to turn your camera on and come ask?
Yeah, thanks for that. I found this was just so it really just hit to core so much of what you were talking about. Thank you so much.
You're so welcome.
Um,
Can you come on camera, Hun, or is that not
I
appropriate?
just,
Right. Oh,
I
there you
just,
are.
I just put her
Thank you.
some
Now she
reason.
um,
disappeared.
you
I
were
know.
talking.
Hold on a minute. Let me add spotlight. There you are. When I add the
She is.
spotlight, you come on.
Her awesome hat.
At the beginning, you were talking about, oh gosh, you've said so much that I've now completely lost track of what my original question was. But you were talking about emotions, and at the very beginning, and
Suppressing them.
my yeah, and my original thought is, what about emotional flooding and emotional intensity?
Mm.
Right? Like as a neurodivergent, I struggle a great deal with that. And everything you're saying is so right about regulating and being in the room and then also just navigating my life. But I really struggle with knowing what those are, what those differences are, and then dealing with like the flooding and intensity.
Yeah, I love your question, sweetheart. It's great. So, one of the things that I've just started talking a lot about in my works and the workshops I teach, and then also my private sessions, is the importance of orienting oneself. Okay. And when you deal with some of the things that you just were discussing, what can help that feel less hard and easier is by throughout your day, really looking around where you are, noticing the stability of what you're sitting on or standing on. And if you do start to experience a little bit of flooding, the most unhelpful thing to do is to resist it. I deal with flooding a bit here and there, not as much as I used to, but I can. So, what do I mean by that? So, rather than, because it can make you feel a little panicked, it can do a lot of different things or a lot panicked. And something I talk about all the time in my work that a lot of people have been appreciating a lot lately is, okay, oh, goodness gracious, I'm feeling a little flooded. Okay. Oh, I'm going to really be curious about that. Oh, wow. So I'm feeling a little flooded. Oh, so now I'm having some really little wacky dacky thoughts. Those thoughts aren't true. Liar, liar, pants on fire. So it's about coming, you know, forward with, I guess is a fun way to say it, with a sense of humor, curiosity. And I would also add letting your belly relax and somehow noticing that you're safe. It will be handy dandy. And also understanding, I like to talk about this, that any emotion, grief is not an emotion, any emotion felt fully for 90 seconds begins to dissipate. What the reason why it can feel like we're in emotion for 2 hours, 2 days, or whatever it may feel like is because we haven't been present with it. And we just kind of keep resisting it. And sometimes this resistance is happening very unconsciously. I want to be very, very clear. Because of the shenanigans I went through, I was numb for the first 45 years of my life. I just wouldn't most of the time even know what I was feeling. So every bit of advice I give, any tip I give, again, it really depends on the person. And playing with the curiosity is usually one of the biggest things that really helps people to shift.
Thanks for that. I appreciate you.
Ah, you're so welcome.
Thank you, Ollie. Jamie, is there another brilliant question?
The chat. However, please put them in there. But if I may, Michelle, I have a question for you.
Please.
In terms of setting boundaries and self-respect and compassion, right? Like
Yes.
sometimes there are those moments where the people-pleasing tendencies that we've grown up with will kick back in, and maybe you don't honor or follow through on a boundary, which like then you start to beat yourself up about it because you're like, oh, I didn't respect myself in that moment. And so can you just talk about like when we do have those moments of backslide or those moments where we don't fully follow through on a boundary, how having compassion for ourselves can help us build resilience and pick ourselves back up moving forward so we don't feel
Yeah.
slighted by that?
Yeah, great question. So again, just as you're mentioning, the compassion part is really important. I think in an instance like that too, it's really useful to really tap into the wisdom of the heart in terms of your intuition and your knowing, and really ask yourself why you didn't respect your boundary, or why you let that person not respect the boundary, and or why did I go into people pleasing? Okay. And really understanding what the trigger was or the reason why it happened, and really being able to sit with that with a lot of compassion is going to be very helpful, because the reason why we do that in terms of our boundaries and really moving into people pleasing is because that's what felt safe when we were young. Okay, it's a coping mechanism that we use to navigate our childhoods. Okay. And I also want to say, and I feel this is very important, you can change your boundary. You can check in with someone and say, I know I told you, whatever it is. I mean, I'm not really talking about a work situation right now so much. I'm talking about, another kind of situation. Well, you can certainly make the choice not to adhere to the work boundary type situation, but it may mean that you don't get the job, so to speak. What I'm really talking about is more in like interpersonal relationships and things like that. And this could be in a work relationship too, where you just let the person know, I know I said that I could do this or whatever it is, it's just not a good idea for me right now. I need to, and you come up with the way to say it that feels most organic and authentic for you. If you take a moment to self-reflect when you have been in people pleasing and or not respecting your boundaries, you're going to get some real wisdom. And that wisdom can sometimes really help you to be different in the future and react differently in the future. Does that make sense?
Perfect sense. Beautifully put. Thank you so much.
Oh, my pleasure.
I see Steve Pearson has a question. Steve, do you want to come on?
How's that? Tried to undo the visuals. Oh, there it is. Okay. Anyway, so Michelle, I'm a big believer in mindfulness,
Great.
and I do post about it periodically on social media. And I was delighted to hear you mention it early on here in your
Yes.
comments. Can you just speak a little bit more about how it does fit into your overall regimen of healing
Yes.
and
Yes.
self-respect and so on?
Yes. I love your speaking voice, by the way. You have a
Oh, well,
lovely
thank you very
speaking.
much. Maybe I'm in
Yeah.
the right business. I don't know.
Yeah, I
Yeah.
think you are. I noticed it right away
Oh,
in the
thank
beginning.
you. You just made my
So,
day.
well,
Yeah.
truth. It's truth. So basically, I love talking about mindfulness because really what mindfulness is it's being able to move into the place of being in the observer and being the awarer without judgment. Now, the mind can be a judgmental son of a you know what. Because again, it goes back to everything I've been saying. It goes back to the survival security mechanism, right? So if you're playing with mindfulness in a way that you can be doing this with your eyes opened or closed, and you're just noticing what you're aware of. You're really being in that place of observation, and you notice a judgmental thought come up. We do not want to make ourselves wrong for having the judgmental thought, because whatever we resist persists, as we know. Okay. So it's about having a little chuckle when that happens. And another thing I like to talk about, I think I might have even talked about this the last time Terry interviewed me. And this is pure Zen, what I'm going to say right now. One thought has no more significance than another thought. So I'm going to screw up this fill in the blank is no more significant than I need to pick up toilet paper later today. All right. It's the organizing that the mind and the ego does around significance in terms of thoughts and all of that. So any kind of a mindfulness type practice is going to be helpful if it's your thing. It has to be your thing. You can play with it when you're exercising, because that's like a double wonderful whammy if you're doing that when you're exercising, let's say, because now you're doing two nervous system regulation practices at once. So mindfulness is beautiful. Again, it puts you in that place of being in the observer and the witness. And again, of course, it makes you feel present, which therefore means you are connecting to flow. And I think the biggest thing that's coming through right now to say to you, Steve, is that it's about not as best you can or we can resisting when some crazy judgmental thought comes up, or maybe one of these types of thoughts that I was sharing before, the catastrophic thinking that some people deal with. Because the moment you get pissed, the moment you get scared, whatever it may be, you're focusing on it and you're giving it energy. Because the thought is just one of the 20 to 70,000 thoughts you're going to have that day. Make sense?
It does. Thank you so much.
You're so welcome.
Thank you, Steve. Anybody else have any questions as we wrap up? I can't believe we're already almost at the end of our time here, but if
I
you have any questions,
know.
now's the time. All right. Well, if any come up, you can certainly follow up with us afterward and
Yeah.
see.
Yes,
But
absolutely.
either of you ladies want to talk about anything else in
So
particular?
flow would mean
Flow, flow,
when
flow.
you adjust your nervous system, calm it down. There's no guarantee what's going to come up in the flow, but it's
Nope.
open for,
Yeah, well, let me speak to something, Tara, that you brought
yeah,
up right at the very beginning. Flow as opposed to force.
yeah,
Okay, I want to talk about that for a moment. Force is very much connected to urgency, emergency type energy. And it's very much coming from a place of lack and scarcity and fear.
And so that would be fight or flight too, right?
Absolutely. Well, absolutely. The different places the nervous system goes to when urgency, emergency energy is coming up, and force is either freeze, fight, or flight, or then, of course, being grounded. But that's not what's happening when we feel like we have to manhandle something. We have
And
to
that's
force something.
definitely not being in a creative state.
Nope. No,
Okay,
it really cuts it off. Well,
exactly.
not only does it cut it off, it
Yeah.
also puts you in a place where you are signaling out that it's not safe to have it. And again, I don't want you to feel bad because we've all been in this place where we feel that way. It's just a part of being human. But it's the opposite of flow. And when you're in that urgency, emergency, trying to force things, you're literally stopping the flow. And it's very much oriented around the past and trauma, be it a big T trauma or a small T trauma. So that's the big difference between the two. And again, as I keep saying, it's the nervous system regulation aspect, and really like showing yourself and being in this place where you can feel safe. Sometimes no action is what's appropriate. And the more you're able to tune into your intuition and your knowing, the easier you will be able to trust what is coming through for you. You know, when I was putting together the material in terms of what I wanted to talk about today, Tara, I knew I needed to do some kind of a 2-hour workshop around all of this because there's only so much I can do in an interview format.
Yeah.
So the workshop that I put together, I came up with the name this morning, I wrote it down, is Flow, Success Without Self-Abandonment.
Oh, I
And
love that.
Isn't that a great title?
Yeah.
So I came up with a pretty graphic this morning too. I made it. I'm going to be doing this on March 8th. It's going to be a Sunday for 2 hours. And as you know, a lot of times people can't be there live so that they'll come then, they'll experience it with the replay. I always put together a terrific comprehensive booklet. And I'm also offering a bit of a discount if people, let's see, I wrote this down too. If you register and pay before 12 o'clock midnight on February 27th, the cost is just $150. After that, it'll go up to $175. Yeah, it's important to get into all of the different aspects of this, especially as it really pertains to the boundaries piece, because it's not straightforward. It's going to be different for each of us. And yesterday I was inspired to actually teach 2 new processes that I've never taught in any of my other workshops or in private sessions. So it definitely will have new material in terms of processes for those of you that have worked with me before. And I just feel like with everything that's going on in the world right now, there's such an energy of that urgency, emergency. It's just like every day, every day. And so I really wanted to provide a really safe space and container in the form of a workshop. I do have a couple of spots open for private session containers with me right now. If you're somebody who really wants to look at something in terms of trauma from the past for you, I'm very good at helping people around that. Many people have shared with me that 5, 6 sessions with me would have saved them 30 years of therapy. I just repeat that because I've heard it so many times. So if that's something that speaks to you, certainly you can reach out to me about that as well. And the easiest way to reach out to me is with my email, which is michelle@michellecolt.com. And I will mention that I have a terrific podcast with over 100 episodes. And the name of my podcast is Courage to Shine with Michelle Colt. They're short. Oftentimes I teach a process during it. And so many people have shared with me with everything that's been going on in the world the last couple of years that they find a lot of solace and they find it really helpful to listen to my podcast.
That's fantastic. Thank you so much.
Oh, my pleasure, Tara. I always love being interviewed by you.
Nothing else, Jamie? No one else?
We did have one last question pop
Good.
up.
Great.
from Tracy Weissert. Tracy, do you want to come up and ask your question?
Oh, I don't need to ask it. I just have never heard the term. Hello, thank you very much, by the way. I have never heard the term big T trauma and small T trauma,
Oh.
which is probably good for me if I've never heard it, and I hope I've never experienced it either. So, can you tell me what that means?
Yes, thank you for asking.
Yeah,
Yeah, what a big T trauma is it's like if somebody was molested,
yeah,
if
that's what I kind
somebody,
of figured it meant.
yes, or let's say, when you were 10 years old, your parents had to go bankrupt, something really kind of shattering on so many levels. Small T traumas are, not as significant. But what's really interesting about that, Tracy, is that when we go through something that was a small T trauma when we were so young, our little nervous systems might have really seen it or felt it as a big T trauma. So it's really fascinating. And for certain individuals, especially those that are so incredibly sensitive, a small T trauma can still be coming up for them in their adult life as though it was a big T trauma.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
I mean, remove the spotlight. Thank you, Michelle. Any last words you'd like to say to anyone? I think you pretty
Yeah,
wrapped it up.
yeah, I just want you all to know there's nothing wrong with you. And that the coping mechanisms that have come up, for you in the past, it's just a way your nervous system and your mind and your ego is trying to deal with things. I don't even like the word heal in some ways. I was telling a client this yesterday, because to me, it's about releasing what doesn't serve you anymore. And I've certainly helped thousands of people do that now. I've been doing this for 23 years. And yeah, and
Wastes so much time and it takes up space that we could everyone on this call in this meeting could be using for something else.
yeah, I love what you're saying, Terry. And the thing is, though, that so many of us were conditioned that chaos is the way it should be, and
Mm.
it's not. And, I've been doing this work, as you know, for a very long time. The thing I am most invested in for all of you and all my clients is your well being. Because once you start to experience more of a sense of well being, it's really wild what begins to happen in the outer world.
Fantastic. Thank
Thank you,
you.
Terry. Thanks for having me back. I appreciate it.
Thank you. Thank you, Jamie.
Yes, thank you, Jamie. Great question.
Of course. Thank you so much to both of you, and thank you to everybody who has been tuning in. In the chat, I
I'll
popped
put you
in
up here.
Michelle's information. So that way, if people want to get in contact, you can. I also put the name of her podcast in there, the name of the upcoming workshop, as well as
Thank
the
you,
date for
Jamie.
that. And then I also just popped in the chat as well for any voice actors who are looking to strengthen and develop their branding and their unique
Their
vocal
voice
cords.
branding,
Yeah,
it's so different than the branding out there in the world. Yeah.
exactly. Terry has an incredible workshop coming up on February 18th for that still has a few spaces left. So I put that info in the chat as well for you guys. And you can also check out our website, which I put in the chat for Terry's upcoming on-camera commercial acting workshops and all of that
I
as
want
well.
to give Terry a shout out for a moment.
Oh, thank you.
Yeah, my husband's a brilliant acting teacher, and he really teaches actors how to be in their truth and to give very grounded performances that are raw and truthful. And I took Terry's commercial acting class quite a while ago, Terry. I don't know if you remember
Very
that.
long time ago.
Yeah, very long time ago. And I was really struck that Terry approaches acting, commercial acting, the same way my husband does acting. And I was really impressed with it. And I feel that, that's so important that people are really tapping into their truth and not putting on some commercial type character. So I just wanted to say her class is terrific.
Thank you. All right, everyone. Have a great
Bye
rest
for
of your
now.
day. Bye, Michelle. Thank you so much. Thank you,
My
everyone,
pleasure.
for attending. We'll see you soon.